Hey friends. I had an interesting thought today. You'll have to filter this however you filter it. But I did a post a few days ago about how, maybe it was yesterday, about how all of our issues in life, particularly the ones that feel intractable, the ones that feel like they just won't go away, or they seem to come and go, but when they're there, they're really threatening. Those issues are a manifestation of our resistance to our own impermanence. They're a flight from death. And that's either, as I said yesterday, that's either infuriating and frustrating and sort of like feels like a vaguely sadistic arrangement for the universe to have adopted. But alternately, if we accept that impermanence is the prerequisite for existence, in other words, anything that exists, for time and space to exist, for time to exist, beginning and ending is a prerequisite. Because otherwise, time would be indistinguishable from no time, where there is no emergence, there is no life, there's no birth and death, there is no cyclical anything, there's no existence, there's no space, there's no time. Those two things have to be different. There's a difference between existing and not existing. There's a difference between a universe that exists in potential only and a universe that exists in real life as a thing. And that difference is the impermanence of the thing that exists. So, I don't know, I enjoy these seemingly circular philosophical musings, but that sort of illustrate what we're trying to look at, what we're trying to name. You can't really talk about non-existence, the absence of, you can't conceive of that really. We might touch it in moments of Satori consciousness where we awaken into the infinite existence of our own being, but it's not something that you can conceptually describe. But you can kind of chase it down. You can throw paint against the wall and talk about the picture you're trying to paint, which is what I enjoy doing. That fact that impermanence impinges upon us via the problems, issues, kind of seemingly intractable, unsolvable issues that we experience. That's actually a glorious feature of the universe if we see it from the point of view that impermanence is a prerequisite, and therefore it's not a problem. Not only is it not a problem, it's the reason we can be here at all. Death is the reason we can be alive. That's probably not what our biological organism is programmed to feel. Oh yes, death, thank you. Thank you for the fact that I die, because that's how I am able to exist. Our biological organism that's programmed for survival and fight or flight and avoiding death at all costs and promoting life and promoting our procreation does not think like that. It doesn't have that type of spiritual insight. It just wants to stay alive. So if our awareness is located there, we're gonna not be so we're gonna not welcome death with open arms. However, it is actually the case that we could not live without dying, that we couldn't exist without impermanence. So if we accept that, even just hypothetically, just temporarily, we'll stop going to war with the idea that our death is a problem, that our impermanence is a problem. Just pretend, for the sake of a thought experiment, that that's not a problem. Then all of a sudden, the way that our problems manifest starts to look like we have a benevolent, generous, patient, sensitive universe helping us to learn that lesson incrementally, step by step by step by step. We're being given sequential experiences that help us receive that help us integrate that knowledge, that help us little by little expand our sense that, hey, our death isn't a problem. The fact that we're only here for a limited amount of time isn't really a problem. It's actually a great thing. It's actually, well, it's the root of everything. And that means we don't have to treat it like a problem, and that means we can treat it like a gift. And something showed up. This is taking the metaphor or the mechanism of how our problems show up as, our problems are basically death showing up in a way that we don't recognize it as death. We just feel it as this intractable thing in our life. That also happens in relationships and in a close partnership, especially in a close partnership, a close, mutually supportive partnership. There's a way in which I had this image come to me where there's a way in which we're killing each other, but in the most supportive possible way, because we're not killing each other in the sense of negatively or adversely injuring each other, but we are part of the evolutionary process of each other's deep spiritual growth. And deep spiritual growth is a lot about accepting death. It's a lot about incrementally accepting death and being okay with this part of my ego falling off today, this part of who I think I am dissolving, this thing that I think makes me me being ripped out of my body and shown to me as clearly not defining my identity. I may have greater or lesser degrees of attachment to it, but my attachment is just kind of like how I happen to feel about this right now. The fact that it is not my identity is still the case, and growth means accepting that. Growth means moving into that day by day, moment to moment, experience by experience, conversation by conversation. So this is where I had this feeling of like, I had a conversation with Katie yesterday, and she was giving me a really powerful reflection about something. I just felt this part of myself that didn't want to accept it, wanted to rebel, wanted to reject, wanted to say no. And then I was awake enough, I was clear enough to see, what are you gonna do? You're just gonna reject this? You're just gonna not accept the truth? That's silly. That's a waste of time. Accept the truth. She's offering me the truth. And then in that moment, a part of me had to kind of die. And I think that's why relationships are the ultimate crucible, and parenting, God knows parenting has its own whole world of that. Any close friendships can do this. Any close relationships can do this. It's just that partnerships tend to be some of the most consistent and some of the most intense of these experiences. So knowing that that's what's happening doesn't make each next experience more fun, right? Like it's never more like just accepting the death of the ego is rarely fun. Like fun's somehow not the right word. It can be exhilarating. It can be inspiring. It can be expanding. It can be nourishing. It can be liberating. But fun, in the sense of kind of entertainment, is rarely the first word that I would leap to describe experiences like this. Because again, we're dealing with letting part of what we think is ourselves, die. So when we see that love is a kind of ongoing, nurturing, and supportive assistance in the process of dying, it reframes what a relationship is about. It just has to fundamentally change the nature of what it means to spend time with someone, what it means to be engaged with someone, what it means to share a life with someone, share time with someone. Again, this doesn't have to be partnership. Any relationship can do this, but partnerships, if we're in a partnership, tend to have a heavy dose of this. And it can be very freeing, and it can be kind of a relief to see that and to not expect it to feel fun all the time. It doesn't. That's not the nature of spiritual growth. That's not the nature of spiritual evolution. And that's also why it's not the nature of love. Love doesn't have that it doesn't always have that feeling. Sometimes it has the feeling of, I have to let go of something in me that I'm attached to. Right? And that's sometimes how it feels. Maybe not. Maybe you all have the ability to let go with total abandon and ease. But for some of us, we fight it. But it just fills me with so much gratitude for the relationships that I do have in my life, and that the invitation to keep doing this work and to keep falling in love, to keep living in love. This feels like a Sunday video post, but it's only Thursday. It must be because it's the end of spring break. I don't know. That's what I got today, people. Thank you. Much love. I appreciate you. Have a wonderful day. I'll see you tomorrow.